I have great hopes one of you gentlemen will represent me in the 7th district, and if you do, I want you to be there long enough to be able to control that bureaucracy. Now, the other question that we have here, and this is a very important question, and it gets bantered around a lot, but there's two sides to this question. Earmarks, and this one, Mr. Pantano, I believe it's your turn, Mr. Pantano. And the use of earmarks has been criticized as an abuse of legislative power. If elected, will you abstain from this practice, or will you use the system of earmarks to bring a portion of the tax dollars back to the district? Now, explain that, and again on both sides, what an earmark is. Obviously, we can point to bad earmarks, but there are some good. But question to you.
I'm going to start at 30,000 feet, and then we're going to get to ground level. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution enumerates the powers of the Congress, and we have to be very clear. We have budgetary authority. We have spending authority in the Congress. Often that gets abdicated to the executive branch, so now we're finding the legislative branch has ceded power to the executive branch. We've been complaining about this power grab of Obama and his czars over the last couple of years. All of that is true, and a point can be made that don't you want that ultimate spending authority to live inside the Congress? But the problem, friends, the problem with the seniority system as it exists today, and the reason that I oppose earmarks, is because that pork barrel spending, and you've all heard that expression, are you going to bring back to the district what belongs to the district? When 435 members of Congress are committed to doing the exact same thing, that leads to ever-increasing, spiraling deficit and debt. That is the road that's gotten us exactly here. This didn't happen on its own. It didn't happen on its own. Now, listen, aircraft carriers under President Carter wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for earmarks. The MRAP, mine-resistant vehicle that saved the lives of some of my Marines, wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for an earmark. Is it true that when a member of Congress has an opinion about something being important, that it's not always junk or terrible? Yes, it's true. But can't we find a better way to streamline and to actually have a methodical process for allocating our very limited resources as we go into 2012 and 2014? I've got 2 children, and I'm not satisfied that they're going to be saddled with 6 figures in debt apiece. I'm not satisfied with that. We have to reform the system. And saying, well, we've got to always do what we've always done. No, that will get you what you've always gotten. And if you like what we've got in Washington, friends, we've got a 16-year incumbent in the congressional seat right now. Might as well leave him if you like all that experience. I would offer it's time to do something different. We started in 2010. We got the hope. In 2012, it's time for the change. Thank you.
You know, I think I signed that Jim DeMint thing, and I didn't have to put my house up as collateral.
It was a different pledge.
Oh. But anyway, I would sign that I would not take earmarks if it passed in Congress and everybody else agreed to it. That's fine with me, but for me to say, okay, I don't want the 7 to have earmarks and everybody else that I'm competing with, our county's competing with, is getting them. I know you said you got to take a stand and all this other kind of stuff, and it's all...
And I believe it.
And the American way and all that. But I think that if you're going to stay competitive, I mean, there are a lot of things that come in with those earmarks that help the district, and for one district not to get it, and then we're competing with the beaches in South Carolina and this, that, and the other, I disagree with that. But I'll be happy to do it if everybody in Congress agrees to it.
I think we have to understand what the fundamental problem is. The fundamental problem with Congress is they have not passed a budget since 2007. Now, how many of y'all out there go day to day without a budget? If you are, you're probably not too good a shape. You know, that's where our government is. That's why spending has increased so dramatically, is the U.S. Senate in particular has not passed a budget in years. So the spending is unconstrained because there is no budget. There's no guardrails in place. Now, the thing you have to understand about earmarks is every discretionary dollar, and what I mean by that is every dollar that's not an entitlement, not entitlement spending, every discretionary dollar is an earmark in one form or the other, whether the Congress appropriates it or whether the bureaucracy appropriates it. So it gets back to the question of who do you want to have controlling the dollars? Some earmarks have not been very prudent, but at least the voters have an opportunity to eject that member of Congress. And if you had real campaign finance reform, they could eject that member of Congress easily.
How about time? Do what?
Let's go another hour.
Sorry with me, I already missed my fried fish supper I caught yesterday. It's your turn to respond to this question. I was just checking on the time for the next question. We'll move another question. And except everybody that's here, I don't assume they'll run us out of here full morning anyway. Okay, but
Mr. Mayor, the earmark question, I
Yes,
think I
sir.
answered that first, didn't I?
yes, that's right. Okay, good.
Good trick. I didn't catch you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I'm not quite that good. All right, so, okay, we'll do a couple more questions and then we'll let these gentlemen have 2 minutes, in their closing statements and then we'll have a chance to visit with all of you. Does that sound good? That's great. Okay. How's everybody? Everybody having a good time?
Yes, thank you.
Now, we've heard a lot tonight, and I think I've covered most of the questions that have come unless they were of a personal nature. The question comes to be though, and these folks have listened to the debate, and it's a good debate, and we've got knowledgeable people here, represent the interest of the district. The question comes to be, and this can't be just a soundbite, and I've carried this around. How are we going to do it? My major concern is my grandchildren and what they are confronted with. And we all know that the national debt and the slide that we are experiencing as a nation is going to affect our grandchildren, even the one that was just born to my daughter last week. The Democrats are having a debate somewhere tonight, maybe not in the 7th district, but they're discussing how crazy we are. And we're having a debate about how wrong they are. And nobody is actually doing anything at this point in time. So my question to the candidates that will lead us is, how are we going to get there? How are we going to move from where we're at to where we actually put this country back on the road to success?